Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be discussing objectives and success criteria for test automation. A lot of people, when they start off an automation effort, they might dig right into finding an automation tool. And what we find is that this could be a big mistake. You might end up choosing the tool that doesn't really meet your success criteria. And what we've experienced sometimes with our customers that we go in and talk to is that they've bought a tool already, and then later they find that, oh, the tool doesn't meet exactly what they want it to do. So when we first begin working with the customer, one of the primary things that we focus on in the beginning is determining objectives and success criteria. So what are these? Well, first of all, we sit down and we look at the different stakeholders that are involved in the automation project. And what we find is that at one level, for instance, the CEO, they may be concerned about increasing quality or attracting more customers, maybe sales numbers, as well as help desk calls, perhaps length of calls, things like that that have to do directly with either top line or bottom line type of numbers. On the other hand, for instance, a test lead, they may be concerned about how they can increase the amount of time that they spend on exploratory testing, or how they can reduce the amount of time that they spend on doing manual testing. So it kind of covers the whole spectrum in terms of the types of objectives that different people have in an automation project. Once we sit down with our stakeholders and then we take a look at their objectives, we find that a lot of the objectives are common objectives. Some of them are different, of course. And then what we can do is we can develop criteria for success based on these objectives. So you can see from this simple diagram that we have stakeholders on the left, and then based on that, we get to their individual objectives, some of which are common, and then we develop criteria. So sometimes you may come across a objective that seems rather broad, like increase quality and save time. Well, you can take some of these broad objectives and break them down into mini objectives. For instance, increasing quality can be done through perhaps achieving reducing the errors in testing or increasing platform coverage. Saving time can be done through reducing the amount of time on manual repetitive testing. So what you have to do is you have to dig down deeper into the objective and determine smaller objectives that you could possibly get a handle on. Then what you do is you think about criteria that, if met, would meet some of those mini objectives on the left-hand side. So for instance, decreasing the percent of time spent on regression testing would fit with reducing the amount of time on manual repetitive testing. Attaining a certain percentage of automation on regression tests on the bottom there, let's say you shoot for 40% or something like that, that would in turn um, enable manual testing to refocus on more exploratory, newer features. So this is how it all fits together. First of all, you have the stakeholders and you figure out what the objectives are. And like I said, they can be varied. And then you take a look at that and develop user stories and use cases that are based on those objectives that would fit with your software. And then you take a look at an automation framework and developing a framework based on the objectives, the use cases, and your software, which in turn goes down to the actual automation scripts and test cases. And then, of course, you want to spit that back out on the other side with the results that shows that you've met your objectives. So you always want to report results that meet the objectives. That's a key point here. Um, so let's see. So a couple of takeaways for today. The first one is don't dive into a tool. Um, I think it's easy to do something that's tangible first, which is, have invited several vendors in and have them do their dog and pony show on what their tool can do. But really, it's better to dig into the objectives that you have for your automation project from the different viewpoints in your company. And lastly, develop some real criteria for success that are measurable. You saw some of the examples that I presented there. So that's really important. And of course, we want to start off step by step. So you might want to do just some very, very simple criteria or measurements that you can get the information quite easily and then build from there. Next up, I'll be talking about developing an automation strategy. So once you have all of your objectives, then you can think about, okay, these are my objectives, and what is the order that I would develop my automation, and what is the order of execution as well, and how will I plan my execution? See you next time.